Hi, I got here early in the morning, more than an hour before the train gets here, and getting ready to head off to my San Juan Olympics bicycle tour. Should be about 2 weeks, give or take a few days. Just wanted to get here in enough time to get going and not worry about things, just in case I had a flat or anything. Get off on a good start. So I have a little bit of wait here before the train comes. The train station's not even open yet. Opens at probably about a half hour from now. I got off at the main Seattle station, which is really close to the waterfront and right by the stadium that's up there. I think a lot of the waterfront is new. The trail and woodwork here and stuff you could tell was pretty new, or it looked really new. Being Labor Day, there was lots of people down there.
And he asked us our birthday, and then he told me. Oh.
I talked to some people and they suggested staying on this trail. I had a different route that went inland a little bit more, and I'm glad I stayed on this trail. This was a neat area. I had seen it on the map, but I had never visited here. It's a lock that goes to the Puget Sound on one side and a lake on the other. You can cross by foot or by bike in this area. This was pretty busy. It was a little tight fit for the bike with all the bags, but still not an issue.
It looks like you're loaded for a big trip.
Yeah, going on a big trip.
You going on?
Yeah, right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm on one, as you say.
Where are you going?
Up in the San Juan and then into the Olympic Peninsula. Yeah. I just started today. Yeah.
Stage one, right?
Yeah, stage one, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be like this, which is nice, actually.
You should go down to this place. Have fun.
Thanks.
How far up or down we go? If you have questions, you can rise or open. Harrison on tie us on the other way. He'll be back on the microphone.
Back to the lock attendants. They keep us quite safe.
Harrison!
A bit of a hill. So just to give you a quick update for today. Left on the train and the Amtrak this morning. Simple to check in, just gotta make sure you check in and get a tag for your bike, at least on this route. When the train comes up, you have to give it to the baggage person, which is the same person working the desk. And then I had to lug all my panniers and stuff. I had those prepared. We had a late start. It got there on time, but it left at least 10 minutes late. But then on the way, they came on the PA system again and said that the train in front of us, the Amtrak train, had broken down. And so they wanted this train to pick up and take the rest of the cars. So all in all, I think we got in an hour, a little over an hour late, which isn't too bad, but it got a slow start. Anyway, I had a sugar day planned, got into Seattle, and it was only going to be about 35 miles or so to the hotel, as you can see I'm staying at. There wasn't any campgrounds close enough that I could really ride to, so I had to find a hotel. Unfortunately, it's the first day to the hotel. I would have preferred to have a hotel like halfway through, because then that helps. But right now I don't have any other hotels planned. I'm planning on camping at all the campsites, mostly hike and bike campsites. For today, I got off the train right in downtown Seattle. I did ride through. I didn't really stop. I probably should have stopped and got something to eat, but I actually didn't eat all day, which wasn't good. I just had some snack bars and stuff. Even now I haven't eaten yet, so I gotta hurry up and finish so I can go to a nearby restaurant and get some food for the day. Didn't spend too much time in Seattle, but it was pretty neat to ride through. I had a pretty marked path, but the waterfront trail looked interesting, so I stayed on that and went off my planned route a little bit, I think. Unfortunately, the video camera, the battery ran out, so I missed some of the update. I'll see if I can fill in the details. There was a lot of city riding, residential areas, and then rural pathways and urban pathways. I mainly wanted to make it through the Seattle area, get to the hotel, but it's always fun to ride new areas that I haven't ridden, and all this area was brand new for me. I got to the hotel and checked in no problem. That's pretty much the wrap up for the first day. Starting off at day 2, I had a good breakfast at the hotel. I wasn't too worried about the time because the ferry that I was taking across is only a 20-minute ferry. That particular ferry goes about every half hour, so you really never have to wait too long, or shouldn't have to. So I wasn't sure if I needed to go where the cars went, or it had a sign that pointed for foot passengers. So I decided to take the foot passenger direction. However, when I got to the end, there was a sign that said the bikes need to go where the cars go. The ferry was already there. I was able to ride back really quick and get on right as all the cars were finished loading.
You want to go anywhere in particular? Okay. Yeah.
Normally the bike and foot passengers would load up first, but because I got there just at the end, it was fine, but I had to come after the cars, and then I needed to try to squeeze up in front, or I didn't need to, but they actually suggested that because foot passengers and bicycles unload first. It was a little tight fit, but once I got up in the front, I noticed I could have gone through one of the side car routes and avoided this whole squeeze through. But I made it okay. I barely had enough room with my panniers on each side of my bike to squeeze through. Even though in the instructions they say don't leave your baggage and stuff, so you can go up into the passenger area, which is nice. It has nice seating and has little vending machines or an actual cafe up there as well. I just stayed by my bike and took pictures of the area and enjoyed the trip down below. It was quite windy and a little bit chilly. This particular ferry was the least amount of foot passengers and bicyclists of all the ferry trips I took. There's a lot more people on later ones. My route was marked this way, but I just saw a sign that said dead end. It was always hard to tell because dead end for the road, for driving for sure, but not necessarily for bicycling. So I could be coming back out this way. Yeah, looks like it goes through for bike and walking. What a deal. I was pretty sure that this went through because I had checked on my map, and sure enough, it went through. Looks like it's still okay. But you always wonder if you're going to have to backtrack. Sometimes that happens, but you just have to go with the flow if that does happen. This was a short section, but it was really nice. I stopped at one point, and there was 2 chipmunks chasing each other, and right like 5 feet from me. It was pretty entertaining. There's a deer up there. I think it went off. I don't see it anymore. There it is. It came back out. Apparently didn't like that way, last way. I think that there was too high of a fence that the deer didn't want to go through on that side. Is that a bad sign? I don't know. Hopefully not. There was a lot of little towns on Whidbey Island like this.
Hi.
So it has a nice ambiance. It has that small town vibe. I always like to ride out on the different docks and piers if I can. This one I didn't ride all the way out. I was content with just stopping up above. At a little pull-out, almost in the center of Whidbey Island, this narrow part. Making good time, not in any big hurry. In fact, I don't really want to get to the campsite too early because they won't let you in, or let you camp anyway. But I still have a couple of things I'm going to probably spend some time on. Dropped down a hill to this area, and it was pretty windy, a little bit of a headwind through here. As you can see, low-lying fog clouds. Out by the bay. Don't know where I'm going to end up. I went the wrong way. Now I'm trying to get back to where I was supposed to be. I think I can get through it on this rather rough footpath. When I got to Fort Casey, I had planned to explore it. I ended up dropping back down a hill in the park and had to work my way back up a back way instead of backtracking the whole way. It ended up working okay. There's a lot of old concrete batteries and stuff throughout the Northwest, and this is one of many. They're interesting to explore and visit. There'll be some additional ones on this trip as well. Heading to Coopville. The rain really changed and the fog went away. It's been foggy and hazy all day. All of a sudden it went away. Campgrounds always seem to have the steepest hills in the campsite. This is a normal campground this way. And it's a big hill. I already came down a big hill. I'm going up another big hill. What I don't know is if the hike bike sites are this way. Because they had to group camp the other way. So I'm hoping it's not over there. Otherwise this is all for nothing. Look what I found. A sign. Looks interesting. Here's the road. I'm gonna go up that, see what happens. See if I can make it up yet. Well, I found the hiker biker. It's definitely primitive. It's okay. I'm not sure where you go to pay though. I don't know, I'll have to check it out. Probably just camp right over there. So I made it to the hike bike camp area. I just happened to see the sign. The next challenge was figuring out where to pay, which I did figure that out, and then I forgot to bring the money, so I had to come back and get the money to go pay. But it wasn't too far, and I used my bike, so it was quick. There was quite a few hiking trails around this park. I did take a walk in the evening as well as in the morning. I took another walk, but I'm sure I didn't explore even a fraction of the available trails throughout the park. From this island you could see out into the Puget Sound, and then actually across the way is the Olympic Peninsula. It was fairly hazy. I mean, it is along the coast, so there's a lot of marine clouds and low-lying clouds. Also was right near the major air base. You get plenty of jet noise, at least in the daytime and evening. This one had a water spigot close by, but the restroom was quite a ways away. I'm at Fort Evie State Park and got everything ready, got the tent set up after a good day of riding. It's really nice right now. Most of the day in the morning, the fog was in, overcast and foggy. It was still good riding, but it was a little bit on the chilly side. But I would sweat on the hill climbs up and get chilled on the way down. But it was still good riding. Got to visit a lot of the towns, passing through mainly. Didn't really stop too much. Stopped at a couple of state parks, another fort, Fort Casey. Toured the battery and rode around the lot there. Saw lots of deer today, I think 13 total, 5 different group sightings, so there's no lack of deer on Whidbey Island. Had a little bit of issues with the GPS, but other than that, things are still going well and no issues. I didn't really find any place to eat. Fortunately, I got a good breakfast this morning from the hotel. And I didn't really find anything that I wanted to stop at that was quick and convenient. And the last town, Coopville, that I toured, all of them were like sit-down type places, and I didn't really want to do that. So I just rode into camp and got some food, or used some of the food that I had brought with me as a contingency. So, and I still have some more, but I want to keep that stocked. So in situations like this, I don't have to stop or go hungry, because that wouldn't be good. Other than that, everything's going well. I'm just trying to stay awake long enough so I don't wake up too early in the morning. Right now, the sun hasn't even set yet. It's getting closer, but probably still another hour before it completely sets. So this day I'm going to work my way through the north side of Whidbey Island, cross Deception Pass, and then finally into Anacortes. I'm going to stay the night in Anacortes before crossing over to the San Juan Islands. That way it'll give me enough time the next day to do some riding and to get to camp. Here's where I switched off yesterday, and now I'm on to new route. I did a little bit of backtracking, but not too much, just a couple miles. Peaceful morning ride. Another dead end, but I see the ride markers say go through here, and my route doesn't go through, so it looks good. The biggest city on Whidbey Island is Oak Harbor, so I was planning to find some place to get some food there. Here was a nice place to enjoy some of the food and relax a little bit before continuing on.
An ordinary everyday thing, like, hey,
Seems like there's lots of hills like this. Not super long, but can be pretty steep. There's lots of hills, but I would say the hills are pretty typical for anywhere in the Northwest. What's that? I don't think they're native here. Coming up to Deception Pass. The roads get narrow here. Hopefully there's a good way through. I think there is. Deception Pass is a neat spot to look out and stop by. Unfortunately, the sidewalk is very tight, and I could barely squeeze my bike through this section with the panniers on. The currents are really strong with the tides, and all the water from the Puget Sound is getting pulled through there. In the center, there's a nice little rest area, hiking area, a place to do some more viewing. The road was a little bit tight here, but traffic is going relatively slow across the bridge, so it's fine also riding in the road. If you're not going to do some sightseeing, it's better to stick to the road. It's funny, when I saw this path on the Google Street View, I could only see it from the road, but I had the impression it looked just like this, and I was correct. Completely overgrown, but it looks like I can mostly make it through without running over the stickers. Maybe. Geez, if we're going to have a path, they should at least maintain it a little bit. Uh-oh. Hope that goes through. I specifically went out of my way to ride across this, which it was worth it. After lunch, I was re-energized, so I decided to add a little bit to my ride here and go up to a viewpoint. I knew it was a little bit of a climb, not anything significant, like a 200-foot climb, but it was steep to get up here. There doesn't seem to be any water or a restroom that close by. I'm gonna go look for some water. Just finished the ride. It was a shorter ride, 45 miles or so. Actually, I didn't look exactly, but around there. Before I left this morning, I woke up pretty early. I went for a short walk at the park I was staying at. That was a fun little morning walk. Packed up my tent and then headed off. Some scenic views around the bay right at Oak Harbor. So I got some food, mainly just some more provisional food to replace what I used up last night. So I have a good stock. I made the ride a little bit longer, so I explored some areas on the east side of Whidbey Island, and it was just peaceful. Not too much traffic for the most part. A little bit of hill climbing, but nothing really too bad. Really shorter, like half-mile climbs for the most part. I made it to Deception Pass, and that was interesting. I knew that was there. Wasn't sure what the crossing would be like for on a bike. Just had some excitement. Some dogs got a little bit of a scuffle. Went up to Deception Pass, explored that a little bit. Well, from the road, the sidewalk. I mean, you could ride in the road, but I wanted to actually stop and get some views, and they have it divided off. So I took the sidewalk path, but it just was barely wide enough for my bike to fit through. In some spots, it was rubbing on both sides. Took an interesting trail. Purposefully, I saw it was on the map. It was coming in Anacortes, crossing a bay on a pathway. So that was kind of fun, coming in the back way. But at that point, I was really hungry because I just had that fruit and some stuff in the early morning. So I did my subway ride and eat a sandwich then, and then got one for dinner tonight. I haven't eaten that yet. At Anacortes, after that, I went up on like a high point. I wasn't going to go up there, but because I had extra time, I decided to go ahead and do that. It was really steep. And then I just made my way here. Really hard time finding the hiker-biker site. There was no signage. I had to look on a map and find out where it was, and then I was able to locate it. So I got checked in, set up my tent, tried to get my electronics charged. I don't know if the hills were so much, my generator hub didn't really I had my phone hooked up most of the day, and it only added like 10 or 15%. So tomorrow I'm heading over to the San Juan Islands. I think I'm going to Lopez first, and gonna pick up the ferry early in the morning. I gotta check my schedule, make sure I get up on time. There's not as many to go over there, so you don't want to miss it. Otherwise, my day it'll be interesting if I miss it. Don't plan to do that, so should be fine. Getting ready to leave, 8 o'clock. Should have plenty of time. Trying to catch the ferry. It was a foggy, short morning ride, but at least I got to see a couple of deer. The terminal at Anacortes is pretty major, as it's the main terminal feeding all the San Juan Islands. You buy one ticket to get to the islands, and then the in-between island ferries are included in that. In addition, the return trip is also included. I did get there pretty early. There was a ferry already in the dock, but it wasn't the one that I needed to catch. The one I was going on is coming a little bit later, so I had plenty of time to be able to get a breakfast sandwich. There was a lot of walk-on passengers here, in addition to a lot of other bicycle tours. I got into conversations with several of them, and we discussed our trips. Some of them were going over to the islands and doing overnight camping, and others were just doing day rides.
That is okay, right?
The particular ferry I took over took quite a bit of time, so I was able to go up this time and rest in the passenger area. You can see there's plenty of room up for passengers up above. It's a comfortable way to go, and if it's cooler, it's definitely warmer to be up inside. The other thing is the ferry I took did stop at a couple of other islands before getting to Lopez, so it ended up being a pretty long ride. This tractor came off the ferry that I came over on. The only main town is this Lopez village. It looked like it had some stores and other restaurants. The rest of the island really doesn't have much as far as provisions or public services. So even with my stop at Lopez Village, I passed the same tractor again. I did a few mile out back trek out to a nice section that's called Fisherman's Bay. I didn't explore any of it on foot, but it was a nice ride out and back. There's a small airport on the island, and a plane happened to take off right when I was riding through. Lots of forested roads and actually fairly limited viewpoints on this island. Further south there was some beachfront riding, and it was a little disappointing because almost all the area was marked as private property. Public's not really allowed. There's one small park out the end, I think it's called Agate Beach, that you can stop at. Unfortunately, there's still no beach access, or no easy beach access. I continued to work my way south and explore and see what's down there. Nice riding, not much traffic, but again, mostly forest views. Mysterious road with leaning trees. I went out as far as I could on this road. However, I still hit private property gate, so I was unable to even get a viewpoint, although the forest was nice. So I found another point, again, private property, but you can see the ocean, and for me, that's fine because I wasn't planning to spend any time on the beach. I found I think the only store to buy food at the south end, so I went ahead and did that so I didn't have to ride back to the Lopez Village town. With the ferry ride and all the other activities and stops and just the riding, it took me a while and it was already running late. So I cut my actual planned route a little bit short. I was going to ride out to a state park and see that, but I was a little bit worried about the time. In hindsight, I think I probably had enough time to go out and see that. It would have been fine. I was a little bit tired too. The overall mileage for the day was about 47 miles, which isn't too bad, but there was a lot of climbing, almost 3,000 feet of climbing. Really nice campsites right on the water's edge and in an isolated area. I forgot to record an update yesterday before, so I'm getting ready to leave in the morning. There's apparently a polar plunge group out there. Man, that water's way too cold for me. So yesterday was a good ride around Lopez Island. There's really only one main city, which is Lopez, and I hit that in the morning. So I didn't really stop and get anything. There was only one other store I ran into for food. So I had to pay some expensive, but it was worth it just to grab a sandwich and stuff. The ride was really nice, not very much traffic, peaceful, but I was expecting more viewpoints. So that was, I wouldn't say disappointing, but I was hoping for more viewpoints. I mean, there's lots of good forest views and fields, so it was still very beautiful. Saw lots of other bicyclists on the road. One other thing that was note is there's a lot of private property along the beaches, and they're marked right up to the beach, the private property only. So that also blocks exploring a little bit further near the coast. Anyway, I'm going to have to head to the ferry. I'm going to San Juan Island this morning, Friday Harbor. One other thing, the campsite's really nice here. There's no showers and vault toilets, but very nice isolated hike-bike area. There's not a lot of standard sites, but there's quite a few places for hike-bike. I got to the Lopez ferry terminal with plenty of time, so just a little extra waiting. It's better than getting there at the last minute. I did talk to somebody that lived on the Lopez Island while I was there. They were traveling by foot to another island, so I had a good conversation with him about life on the island. I was traveling to Friday Harbor on San Juan Island, but there were stops at both Shaw Island and Orcas Island. So the trip itself took a little while, over an hour. The group of tourers that I had met at Anacortes was here leaving on Orcas Island. You can see them down in the group there, getting ready to get off the ferry. Even though it wasn't the full summer season, there was still a lot of bicyclists and foot passengers that you can see here. So I can only imagine what it's like at peak season. Friday Harbor is probably the biggest major city in the islands. I believe it is. The captain of the ferry didn't like the small boat passing in front, I don't think. that thing? Is that a dog? Must be. My initial thought was that it was a fox, but I didn't think it would just be sitting there on the side of the road. Off in the field hunting. Definitely not scared of people. Thick, newer growth it looks like, but still pretty. This beach would have been interesting to stop out maybe and go down by the beach, but I decided not to. Lots of big rocks here. Hopefully this goes through. Oh no. I was a little concerned on this section because I got down here and it looked like there were some private road signs. So I didn't know if it went through, but I decided to go ahead and push on through. There was a gate, but it was open and I think I might have lucked out. So I took a little bit of a chance, but I didn't really want to backtrack if I didn't have to. I definitely wanted to stop and tour through this site. I had met a couple of ladies by the visitor center and they were touring on a private tour group, and so we talked for quite a while. I took a gravel back path and road as opposed to staying on the paved road, and it was good enough to bicycle on. A little bit more enjoyable. Look at that. You definitely have to do some hill climbing though to get out to the end point, but I think it was worth it. I took a back road to try to get through in the loop instead of going out the same road that I took in. I did end up coming back out the same way, but it was nice because I got to spot this fox towards the end of the road. It was so used to people, it just completely ignored me. There's a pathway out to this lighthouse, but I didn't take it. There wasn't really a good place to park the bicycle. San Juan Island had more bay view areas than Lopez, but it was still a lot of private. Looks like more deer out there. Like 4 at least there. There's a couple more. Lots of deer on this island as well as the others. I like old farm buildings, especially ones like this that have the more, I don't know, looks like more of a classic look. Plenty of hills on the west side of the island, and towards the end of my ride to the San Juan, I think it's a San Juan County Park, spotted another deer too, heading off to the right. I don't know if it's just the time I take or the amount of hills, but I was tired even though it was still pretty early afternoon. Was able to get a hiker-biker site without any problem. Fantastic sights right on the water, a little bit elevated. You can see across to Victoria, Canada, I think it is. Here's an update from San Juan County State Park, or not State Park, County Park. Camping here, it's really nice. The whole day was nice. Got a nice view again, right by the bay. Today's ride was good after coming across on the ferry. Took the long ferry because the one I took stopped at Shaw Island as well as Orcas before coming to a Friday Harbor. It was a long ride, but it was good. And once I got off into Friday Harbor, I didn't really spend too much time. I wanted to stop by the grocery store, so I rode up the hill and found a grocery store that was a full service, so I was able to get some supplies for the upcoming days if I need to. So I got to start right away. I spotted a fox, or what looked like a fox, and as I got closer it was definitely a fox. Apparently they have lots of foxes on this island, because I saw lots of signs, and I saw another one later on. Wasn't afraid of me at all. It came, kind of ignored me and walked right up to me. The other thing I noticed on the island is there's, especially on the south side, there's lots of big rocks. And in fact, I saw a sign or something, Big Rock Road or something. So there's lots of big rocks around here. Of course, saw some more deer. I ended up spotting about 10 deer, I think, today. Went to our San Juan National Park, and there's also like Cattlehead Point or something like that. Rode up there, lots of hills going down and up, but it was a nice view down there, so it was worthwhile, and it was a good addition to the trip. Rode into here, was pretty tired. Lots of hills. I went ahead and I was going to try to do my evening ride. I made it out about 5 miles, and there was lots of hills. And then I was going to have to go down a big hill and then back up, and it was already getting kind of late. So I decided to bypass that, but I ended up seeing another deer and a llama ranch on that. Oh, and a dog tried to attack me. Well, kind of just lunging at me on the way out, and so I was going to pass him again on the way back, and sure enough, he was sitting there and kind of crouched down. I knew he was going to try to attack me. I had to yell at it both times, and it backed off. I think it just likes chasing people. Anyway, you can see the nice sunset. There's a big freighter ship going by. There is lots of other bikers around, but only, I think, one other couple in the hike bike site. I think that's about it for the update. I might try to wake up early and make it. I gotta check out the route. I think I have to go out the same way I rode, which is lots of hills. So I gotta figure out how early I have to get up to catch the early ferry boat. Otherwise I might take the afternoon one again, or not afternoon, but the late morning. It was a really calm and peaceful morning. I decided to wake up for the mid-morning ferry ride because I would have had to wake up with it dark, and everybody was kind of camped close together. It probably would have just made too much noise, and then I would have been rushed to try to get to the ferry anyway. There's a pretty significant ride to get to Friday Harbor for the ferry, but with my later leaving, I had plenty of time to make it there. The dog that had been out the previous night and evening wasn't there when I went by, so that was good. Well, good news. Almost to the top, and climbed 4 or 5 to get to the ferry, so that's good. Should make it with plenty of time. Big rocks. This one's decorated though. Get an idea of the size. Definitely bigger than a bus. Well, taller. Maybe. I can tell. I like this moss-covered outbuilding. I was able to get some food here, but the sit-down places which I was willing to go to were either closed or very crowded, and I would have had to wait a long time. So I got some food just from a convenience store and went down by the docks, ate it, and took some pictures. And just used the time to look around a little bit more and relax until the ferry got there. Really no wind at all, so the water was super smooth. All the wind noise you hear is really from the ferry boat moving so fast. Other than that, it was very calm. There's Orcas Island ferry dock, but we're first going over to Shaw Island and then made it over back to Orcas Island. Looks like low tide, still a little bit of haze, but it's starting to warm up. I'm here on Orcas Island in one of the coves. I'm not sure the name of the actual cove. Just got off the ferry and it's a little bit of climbing and downhill. A little out back here. See if there's any different views. Unfortunately, the sun's in a bad spot for camera. Did some riding back in here. Did a little extra climbing. I just wanted to see this point. There's a little bit of a cove here. It's kind of neat, but not much of a viewpoint. I might go ahead and turn around here because it doesn't look like going any further is going to get any views anytime soon. Plus there's another hill there, and I just came down a hill right over there. The city of East Sound is the second largest city in the San Juan Islands, and even that it's not super huge. It's under 3,000 people, but it has all the provisions, restaurants, shops, a nice store there, so it's a good place to stop. I made my way to Morin State Park. There's a lot of hill climbing to get there. I was able to check in at the ranger station there and get an assignment for a hike-bike site. The hike-bike sites are separate from the main campground by quite a bit. You can see here there's a little bit of rain coming down, but that little bit was all that it was. It's very isolated. There's quite a few campsites there, outhouses for the restrooms, but there's running water, garbage, a little shelter area. After I set up camp and I think got some food, I went ahead and rode the evening ride up Mount Constitution. Where the camp was right at the base of the hill, so it was all uphill from there. Halfway point. I would say it was more difficult than I expected. I thought without the extra weight of all the gear, it'd be a little bit easier, but it was an average 8 to 9% climb all the way up. Unfortunately, due to fog and probably a lot of fire haze, it was not the best view it could have been, but it was still fun and a good viewpoint. They had this neat view tower there that was open, and you can climb clear up to the top and get even a better view from up there. The tower was built in the 1930s and was originally like a fire lookout tower. It has since been converted to more of a public tower slash information museum type thing. It's 53 feet tall, but it does seem a little bit taller than that when you climb and look down. And maybe it's because it's up so high. It's too bad the view wasn't a little bit better, but I think you get a sense of what it could look like with a clear day. I decided, because I had some time in the morning, that I would go for a ride before I packed up, just around to see Cascade Falls nearby the campground. I wasn't sure how long the loop would be, but it ended up only being about a 1.5 mile ride. But got to see some nice waterfalls and enjoy the morning a little bit in the park. I still had plenty of time, so I decided to stop by the main park and give an update. I'm at Warren State Park. I forgot to give an update again last night. It's actually in the morning, heading to the ferry. I was a little pressed for time yesterday because I climbed the Mount Constitution. It was a pretty good climb. It took me an hour to climb it. Almost 2,000 elevation climb from where the camp was. Then I found out they had showers here, so I wanted to get a shower, and then by the time I got back and ate, it was getting dark. So it was good to get a shower. I tried to wash out some of my clothes, are all soaked. I tried to dry them on the ride. Yesterday I left, let's see, where is it? Man, it's a blur. Left San Juan County Park, had to ride a lot in the morning to get to the ferry, 45 minutes to an hour or so. Made it over to Orcas Island. There wasn't too many people getting off, so it wasn't an issue. It hasn't been an issue anyway at any of the stops this time of year, but I could see how it would get really crowded. Went through to the bay on the west side, visited that, did a little climbing on the back roads. I made it to East Sound. They had a pizza place and a bunch of other shops, so I had a couple slices of pizza. That was nice, getting something semi-real food. Let's see. I met a lady on a ship and talked to her for a while, and ran into her in the city just for a minute while I was eating, and talked to her a little bit more. Then I continued up here to the campsite. Yesterday I saw 3 separate deer. One actually walked through the campsite last night. The beautiful view up at the Mount Constitution viewpoint. Anyway, I gotta catch the ferry. I thought I was gonna be pressed for time, but actually it doesn't leave until 12:20, so I have a little bit of time to work my way. I'm not even sure what time it is. I'm assuming it's about 8:30 or so. I stopped by East Sound again and got some more food before continuing on. Minor hill climbs to the ferry. Go past the golf range, or golf course. Even though I knew there was some hill climbing in between, it ended up being a little bit more than I had remembered, which is pretty common. I had a little bit of time to wait for the ferry, and there was a store there, so I was able to get a little bit of food and enjoy the park there. It's funny how just being without electrical outlets, you use every opportunity you can to snag a little bit of power. I took a little bit different pathway heading south just to change it up from when I had come from the north direction a few days earlier. It's steep. So far, so good. I'm at the north side of the Deception Pass State Park. Camping on the south side, Cranberry Lake, I think it's called, where the hike bike sites are. There's a really nice view here. Let me show it to you. I had timed it right for an 11:20 ferry ride out of Orcas Island to Anacortes. There's quite a bit of hills, so I wanted to allocate enough time to get there. So I stopped by East Sound again at the store, got some breakfast this morning. Just some pastries. It took me a little bit longer to get to the ferry dock. I actually only got there like 10 or 15 minutes before the ferry, the 11:20 ferry. Well, about 11:20, I noticed the ferry wasn't there yet. So I looked at the schedule and I was like, oh no, there's no 11:20. And so I was looking at it and it's like didn't see any going to Anacortes. So I was thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to stay here or go to another island. So I was looking at that. Then I did notice, because the sign said Anacortes, that there was a 12:20. But I had an hour to wait. It wasn't too bad. There was a little store there. That's where I grabbed my sandwich, which I just ate, and glad I did. I'll probably eat some other stuff here because as far as I know, there's no store around here. So I'll just eat some of the food I have, which should be fine. That was the last of the San Juan's Islands crossing over the ferry, and then tomorrow I only have one more ferry for the trip. So I've taken either a train or a ferry every day so far. The nice thing about after the tomorrow's ferry runs about 45 minutes, so it's not too bad. Every 45 minutes. After that, I won't have to try to, other than getting to the camp before dark, I won't have such a schedule to keep. So that'll be nice. The other thing is, other than the first day in Seattle, I've seen a deer every day. And strangely enough, I haven't seen any deer today. That could still change because I could see one here. I mean, it's definitely deer country, or on the other campground. So I may still see one today. I had to cross the Deception Pass Bridge this time, just staying in the road. I didn't stop since I had already seen it. The traffic was going slow enough. I made it clear to the park and still hadn't seen any deer, so it was a day without spotting any deer. The hike bike sites are located in the main campsite area, but just like most of the hike bike, the water and restrooms weren't that close by. I walked pretty far just to see some of the day use area and to have the evening dinner down by the water. Funny thing is, it rained pretty hard right after this video, so I had to pack up everything real quick and found an area with a little bit of shelter, but it stopped raining shortly thereafter. Interestingly, the lake here and the ocean are very close together, maybe 100 to 200 yards maximum. This is a view for the Deception Pass Bridge and then the pass itself, and there's always strong currents under this area. I knew I had plenty of time, so I actually hung around the park a little bit. Made my way down to the lake and out onto the dock. It was so calm and peaceful that morning. I ended up covering mostly new roads heading south. Just a small portion at the beginning was duplicate from when I came northbound. I went along the naval base boundary. Although you couldn't really view the base, I could see the boundary wall. Went out to the main road and then actually got to a main entrance to the base. I didn't go into the base or anything. This pathway was parallel to the main highway, but it was worth taking the trail. It was pretty nice pavement. Gets you off the main traffic and much more pleasant even though you're just next to the road. I was trying to time the ferry. In hindsight, I should have just not worried about it. The ferry went every 45 minutes, and I skipped a couple things trying to make the ferry, and I didn't really need to do that because it had just left.
It's okay.
I could still see the ferry when I got there leaving. So I was thinking, well, I gotta wait 45 minutes. But I really only waited about 10 minutes. Got my ticket, talked to some people, took some video, and then pretty much the next ferry was already showing up. I didn't really need to worry about timing it. Made it to Port Townsend. I was going to get lunch at the local subway there, and for some reason it was closed. So I went ahead and skipped lunch for now and went up to Fort Worden. It was a little bit of a hill climb to get there, and also actually at the fort, some extra hills. Lots of batteries. There was lots of other structures and buildings there looked like from different eras. It looked like there was some unused tents from some program or something. They were in disrepair and not being used. It's a pretty large park and lots of batteries. I had to kind of search for the pathway on this one. It was a good choice because it just kept going and going, and I was able to ride through it on my bike. Made for an interesting way to get through the park. After I got some lunch after visiting the park, I was re-energized, and I really didn't have that far to go to my next planned stop. It was another park. Okay, I made it on the Olympic Trail. See if it pays off. So I made the decision I was going to go ahead and go for my next camp spot that I was going to go to the next day and make it a longer day. It was still somewhat early, but also I knew I had a really long mileage day coming up in a few days that was going to be like 92 miles, and I really didn't want to ride that far. I figured out a way to break that up later on if I extended this day out to my next stop. This short section of the pathway was really fun. Some small single track, but also wider but smoother graveled roads. I don't know what their plans are for extending the trail, if they have any options, but right now there's a lot of road riding in this section. They make an attempt to have you take back roads and some other trails where they can. Back on the trail again. Should have under 10 miles to the park. 10 miles and under. I noticed a robot lawnmower, so I looked that up when I got home. I guess I didn't realize that they had such a thing, but it doesn't surprise me. The Olympic Trail runs right through Sequim State Park. When you get near the park, it's really park-like on the trail, and this makes for a nice stopping point. I am at Sequim State Park. Give an update on today's ride. It was a really nice ride, but hard because I think I ended up going about 66 miles. Made a little bit of change in my plans. But I started off at Deception Pass on Whidbey Island, and I continued down Whidbey Island, for the most part, on a different route than I took going north. So I got to see some new coastline and some new area. Saw a bunch of deer both at park and over where I'm at now, or near where I'm at. And also I saw a deer, I think they're resident deer at Fort Eby again. So I took the ferry from, they call it the Coopville, but it's actually at the Eby State Park, or right in that area, and it goes over to Port Townsend. So it's a different ferry than I took going north. And so that should be the last ferry. No other ferries planned for this tour. When I crossed over to Port Townsend, I knew it would be a little side detour and some hill climbing. I went to Fort Worden, I think is what it is. Wow, there is a lot of the military batteries. There is a lot of them there. I rode around quite a bit, and I kept seeing more and more and more. You could definitely spend a long time there exploring. They have a lighthouse there. It wasn't open for touring, but you can view it. I was going to go down to Port Townsend State Park, or Fort Townsend, and then I know there's going to be some harder days coming up, and it was still kind of early. I found a restaurant to get a burger and fries, and grabbed a couple of small things for tonight. So I definitely haven't been eating enough, but I felt like my strength has been good. So I'm going to keep going. I still need to take in some calories or it's going to catch up to me. I think right now I'm working on reserves. I run some of the Olympic Discovery Path. A lot of it is still on the highway, but the pathway that is finished is pretty nice. There's a really neat, out of Port Townsend, really neat dirt path that was really smooth, and it's kind of like what I picture a perfect back path. But it was only about a 6-mile stretch. So a lot of it was on highway and a lot of it was on busy highway. So that wasn't a lot of fun. I'm kind of used to it, but there was some traffic really close and pretty high speed. Not much. There's a few spots where there's really no shoulder at all. I got here pretty late, I think around 5:30. I made it to Sequim here. It's very beautiful. Not a ton of people here. It looks like there's one other hiker or biker in the camp. So I'm glad that they had spots, because it looks like there's only 3 singles. So I don't know what they would do if they were full, because I'm definitely tired and I didn't want to go any further. Fortunately, they have showers here. I took a shower. Now I'm down by the bay, snacking a little bit before I head back up to camp. I like to come down to the water or the opening more, one for the views, but the other things is the mosquitoes really love me, and they're not quite as bad in the open area, so I like that. The water has been super calm. I asked the lady on the tour ferry boat if it's common for it to be so smooth, and she said no, it's not. It's pretty unusual. It's calm probably because there hasn't been any wind really. So okay, that's my update. Still calm and super smooth water. Back on the road again. Leaving the Sequim Park, the trail is still very park-like, but it doesn't take long and it changes to more of a city-like trail. Morning. It was a little bit noisy here because it looked like they were doing some kind of drainage under a bridge construction on the main highway. When I got to the city of Sequim, I went to one of the main parks in the city there. It looked like they had a lot of activities at this one park. A nice dog park. It had an amphitheater, a main community center, softball, baseball, pickleball, all kinds of activities.
Good morning.
Morning.
You here to play?
No, but I do play pickleball. I just was riding by and I saw it. Another restored rails to trails area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Long straight stretch, picking up some pace because I went really slow that first 10 miles. Lots of things to see, which is good. Alright, I got a nice view of the Olympics. Look at that. I think if the clouds weren't there, I would have a view here. Unfortunately, this is all it's been the whole time, so hopefully before I leave this area, we'll get a glimpse. I'm not optimistic though. That was a steep little drop down and ride back up that you could stick on the highway and skip it, but I didn't know that, plus I probably would have ridden it anyway. Fortunately on this ride today, a lot of it is on trails and not on the main road or highway. Lots of restored trestles and other boardwalks through the pathway today. Made it a little bit more interesting. Getting near Port Angeles, the trail heads next to the bay. Stop and take a picture of it. Let's see with all the fog. It just really, the temperature really dropped when I got along the coast here, and I kept checking it. It kept dropping down. I mean, it wasn't super cold, but compared to the temperatures it was in the low 50s, and I definitely felt the chill. Port Angeles area. Almost to the central point. Before searching for lunch, I toured the waterfront at Port Angeles a little bit and got a feel for the scene there. Pretty quiet as far as people when I went down there. Major potholes this thing. The trail was so nice and smooth for all the parts I'd ridden in. Right here in town, it was really rough potholy. So after lunch, I took a little bit of an out and back on this, I think it's called Edith's Hook. There is a Coast Guard station out on the end of it, and I think it even has a little bit of a landing strip out there. I have a feeling there would be a good Olympic mountain view here. When I get back, I'm going to have to look online and see if I can find a good one to insert. Heading west from Port Angeles, there's still more trailways right out of town. A really neat combined highway bridge with a biking and footbridge down below. I spent some time there just enjoying the scene and pretty quiet river and not much traffic on the road up above. I didn't really care for this route. It wasn't horrible. Had a shoulder like this most of the way, but log and dump trucks, very speedy cars. Almost done with it here. A couple more miles. Yeah, I don't think I have to ride on it much tomorrow either. So this section returned to the road, and there was a lot of log trucks through this area and really no shoulder on the road. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the most pleasant ride for the day. I'm at the Liar River DNR campground, which is a first come, first serve free campsite. And it's really small, so I wasn't expecting much, but it's really beautiful. The campsite is completely full. They said there might have been one site when I showed up left, but the camp host here said I could camp in the day use area, which is just actually better because it has a covered area with picnic tables, the water, the bathrooms are all right there. Closest of any place I stayed at so far. Most convenient. So I'm quite happy with the outcome. Today's update, I left Sequim State Park and headed into the city of Sequim on the Discovery Trail. Most of this ride was on the trail, at least in the section between my starting point and Port Angeles. After that, it changed a little bit to mainly highway, unfortunately, at the end. boy, I was really enjoying the first part. Wasn't anything in particular. There were some really neat bridges, and once I got to Sequim, there's lots of things in the town to look at. A nice Central Park that I spent some time just looking at. I think it took me 2 hours to go the first 10 miles, and I had to get 50 miles plus in today to get to this location. But I left early enough that I had time. And then from the Sequim to Port Angeles, the trail continued to be pretty nice. More bridges and other mix of trails from paved to gravel, but all in pretty good condition. Once you get to Port Angeles area, you actually get by the bayfront. Unfortunately, it was really cold, or the temperature really dropped when I got to the bay. It was only about low 50s at that point because of the marine cloud layer that was there. So I explored down there, got some lunch and dinner from there. I went out on the spit. It was an extra out and back, but I had planned that, so it was fine. It was good, calm ride. Again, unfortunately, the clouds were so thick that you really couldn't have a good view even of the bay, but I couldn't see any of the Olympic Mountains. I think I'm not probably going to get to spot them on this trip, unfortunately. The last portion was mainly on the highway, and it was really busy. I think that'll improve a little bit. Tomorrow should be pretty good. More on the Discovery Trail, more on the back roads. A pretty good route planned out, and I think it'll end up at another state park with a hiker-biker. So I'm looking forward to the ride tomorrow. Well, in the morning, I woke up to some banging. When I was in my tent, I thought maybe it was a close-by camper, but I soon realized that the fir cones from all the trees overhead were raining down. They weren't doing it in the evening, and there really wasn't any wind, so I figured it was just a morning thing with the dew or whatever was causing them all to fall. It's foggy, as you can see, and I didn't like riding on the main road. Okay. I think I'm on the right road here. I had to ride a little bit more on the highway, but then I was able to make my way back to the Olympic Discovery Trail. They have a section called the Adventure Trail. I think I missed the most, like the single track section, which is the most difficult. And then I think at this point it combined, and it was still off-road, so I think they called it still an adventure section of the trail. Okay, I'm out here on the Olympic Adventure Trail of the Olympic Discovery Trail. I think a more rugged alternative, which I'm taking through this section. So far it's fine. I wish I had a little bit better tires on my bike for this. Holding up so far. There's another road coming down, don't know where that goes. So far so good. Good, how you doing?
Good.
Going long distance?
Wenatchee, we hope.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I've gone up in the San Juans, now I'm going down back to Chehalis, but along the coast.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, you got some super riding ahead of you.
Good. So do you. Yeah.
Did you come on the adventure trail or the?
Just through this section.
Yeah. Okay. Huh?
Probably 3 or 4 miles on here, and then I'm not sure where it goes because I took a different route.
Oh, okay. All right.
I camped down some other camp, so I joined this at a different spot than normal. But I did do mostly the Discovery Trail.
Nice.
From Port Townsend.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy your ride.
Yeah, you too.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye. I guess I made it through the adventure trail. Oh, that wasn't too bad. That's where I came out right there. I'm gonna read this sign here. I knew Lake Crescent was coming up, but I had never been here, and I wasn't sure what the views would be like because I'd seen so many things on the map and you really didn't have a viewpoint. This area was a very welcome and pleasant surprise. Bowls, punch bowl. I don't think I'm going to go that way. Here's the lake. Morning. It wasn't too early in the morning by the time I got here, but there weren't a lot of people. I probably only passed 5 or 6 people total on this trail. It's a really long trail, and there's, I don't think, that much in between. Like, the campsites I think are on the ends, and so you have to walk quite a ways if you're going to do the whole thing. Clear water, pretty blue turquoise. This section along here, the Crescent Lake, has been paved, and is right now is a really nice pavement, very smooth, smoothest I've been on. Great views of the lake, and then now it's great views of forest. It's dense in here. It's been pretty much a continual climb, 1-2% mainly, but then getting a little bit steep, like 3%. Look how wide the path is here. Crazy. All paved too. Covered in needles. Howdy. Back on the road after a lot of miles on paved Olympic Discovery Trail. Howdy.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Good. Good stuff, man. Crushing it.
How's it going? Good. How you doing?
Awesome.
I know, awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Eventually you need to get back onto Highway 101. I was impressed by this sign pointing out how many times they've harvested this particular forest area. This was the start of many single pass-through sections. There was so much construction vehicles on the highway, and this gave me an indication of why. I think there was only one for today, but there's a lot more coming up. I really don't like snakes, and I think this particular one showed up like 3 or 4 times, and it was right next to my campsite. I'm glad he kind of stayed out of my area though. Well, I made it to the next camp. Not sure how you say it, Bogachil or something like that. There's not really too much here. There's some campsites. You can see my hiker-biker here. Small little site. It looked like you could get down to the river maybe, but the trail is closed, or it has blocked. I might be able to go down further. Maybe I will do that. So today started off from down a little lower elevation, and there was basically a big climb up to about 1,100 feet from the start, which was probably around 200 feet. And also I was taking what they call the Olympic Adventure Trail, which is a dirt gravel trail. So I wasn't sure how that would go. I ended up finding I took a little bit longer way than I needed to because it looked like I wasn't supposed to go down the road. So I went around and added a couple miles probably. But it looked like where it came in connected, I saw the road. It basically connected up to the same road I could have taken. That road was not too bad. It's like your basic gravel, drivable road. Little rough, but not. It could have been much worse. I think there's some other sections that are further on. It says it's single track and smaller, so it might not be the same, but I made it through fine. Unfortunately, somewhere between last camp and here, I forgot to zip up one of my pockets. It had my nighttime headlight that you wear on your head, and that must have popped out. I think that's the only thing I lost out of there. Out of that pocket. The other thing I lost is somehow from the store by the camp, they stopped at the camp here, I bought some food items, and I bought 2 blackberry pie pastries, and somehow I only ended up with 1 here. So I think I must be tired or something, because I'm pretty sure I left it sitting by the bike and forgot to load it up, I guess, unless it shows up somewhere, but I'm pretty sure that's gone. So I'm down a blackberry pie. Ran into a couple riding the other direction on the trail, and a few other walkers on the trail into that adventure trail. Then it merges up with the standard trail, and most of that trail is paved and very, very nice. That goes right along Crescent Lake and has a couple tunnels. Absolutely beautiful ride right along the lake. As you get around further in the direction I was going, it starts going up it keeps going up away from the lake, it's really close, but you're in the forest, so you can't really see the lake. It goes up to 1100, but even by the lake, I think it was almost 1,000-foot elevation. But the lake's probably about 600, so 400 foot above the lake. And then there was miles and miles and miles, still paved trail, but really dense forest. So nice forest view, but it's about the same over and over. So I had fun doing that, but I did cruise through that pretty quickly. I passed some people on some e-bikes, and then I kind of went up a really steep section, and then I was going down a really straight section, and I could see a headlight coming. And I thought, it's those the people I passed on the e-bikes, so they're gonna probably catch up. But I said, I'll go at a pretty good pace. So mile after mile, they were basically losing ground on me. So I thought, and then I don't know, it was a long ways. It finally turned into a road, and I kept riding, and I hadn't seen the headlight for a while. And then I stopped to get a bar and something to eat, and just for like a minute. And then I started cruising, and then sure enough, I see the headlight again. And I was kind of going slower at that point. And then they caught up. It wasn't those people. It was some other 2 guys on mountainish bikes, backpacking or bike packing. They made a comment that I was really booking it, so I must have been going pretty fast. The rest of it, though, was on Highway 101. It was okay. That were really wide shoulders, but of course it has a lot of traffic. So that wasn't great. The weather turned spectacular. It was cold and overcast, still nice, but kind of foggy. And then it just broke, and clear skies and everything. However, still no view of the Olympics. All the mountains are in the way, so I still haven't got a glimpse of that. And like I said, I stopped in City of Forks and got some lunch. That seems to be my big meal now, is getting a lunch. And then stopped at the grocery store and got a few odds and ends. I'm not sure what the outlook for food is for the next coming days. I'm sure I'll find something, and I have my reserves. I may end up tapping into those for dinners. And that's about the update I have. There was more one-way construction zone sections, and this was one of probably at least 5 on this day that I had to pass through. They were a little bit of a pain, but I made it through them okay. Right along here, these drainage pipes, getting I saw a sign for a big tree, so I thought I'd ride up. Okay, I'm way back on some road, but I have no idea how far it is. I'm trying to decide if I should turn around or not. Okay, I'm heading back to the main road, giving up on the big tree. The big tree is elusive, and it looks like it's potentially pretty far away. I was able to get a cell signal and determine it wasn't that close, so I abandoned the idea. Got to the actual Pacific Coast Ocean view at this point. There's a few more points coming up as well. Here's the chance to go see the big cedar again. I'm not going to though, 'cause I think it's still ways off. When I looked at the map, this one was actually a different tree than the other one I was trying to find. Not much happening. Gonna have a hill climb. Looks like this was cut a few years ago. Apparently, the route I had picked, I missed the turn and it was supposed to come out in the road right there, but probably doesn't. The only good thing about it would have missed all that traffic. As far as viewpoints and activities, there wasn't too much on this day, so it was mostly grinding out miles to get to the campground at Lake Quinault. Okay, it was a little minor ordeal, but I think I have my pass. This was marked open on the other side. And this one and one other one were only ones here, so I think I got the last one because somebody else came and got the other one. Okay, here's the campsite. I had to say go pay at the ranger station. Well, I had to guess where that was at. Fortunately, I guessed correct. It was down a hill about a little less than a mile, I think, down the road. Found the pay station, got it paid off. $25, could be worse. I ran into another tourer, and he said he was coming here too. If I see him, I'll try to flag him down and let him know. There's not much room here, but I think we could probably figure something else out to get him in here. Today's update from Lake Quinault. I think that's how you say it, Lake Quinault. So today was interesting. It was mostly just lots of riding, 90+% Highway 101. After a little bit, able to break down towards the coast and get a glimpse of the Pacific Ocean in a couple of spots. I thought there would be more spots to view. There was quite a few if you walked out, but not right from the overlook. Today was also a day of lots of construction zones. So there were stoplights going, only one to go at a time. And I think that I had at least 5 of those. Really not anything super notable on today's ride. I did meet somebody else going southbound that said that they were also stopping here at the lake, but there's several campgrounds and I haven't seen him yet again. I saw another group, two or three groups of people in the same campground I'm at. Right now I'm at a different campground that's down the ways. I was just going to see, which I found lake access from this campground. But I'm really tired because I went a lot of miles, so I'm probably not going to do too much. And another big day, even longer tomorrow, so hopefully I feel okay for tomorrow's ride. I made one last adventure run from the campground, even though I was really tired because I wanted to see this giant tree. It was quite large. It was hard to get the bike close to the tree to give it really perspective because the root ball stuck out so far. My little evening side adventure was almost 5 miles long. It was plenty of distance for me, and I was ready to get back to the campsite. morning. The sun's already breaking through. Not sure how widespread it is, but it's nice. Oh, it's still cold out. In this day, right after leaving the lake and campground, I ran into another tour heading south. And he was going clear down to San Diego, but we got to chatting and we ended up riding together, in fact, for the whole day.
They should have built the dike.
So we were doing so much chatting and stuff, I didn't really record that much just because I wasn't thinking about it too much. We had quite a bit of distance to cover today, and we really just put our heads down and talked and rode most of the time, only taking a few breaks. Slow but good. Hometown feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I made it to, I think it's Twin Harbor State Park, yeah. Hike bike place from Lake Quinault. And I'm just heading out to the beach, or trying to reach the beach, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it because the sign on the trail said to the beach here. So as far as today's riding, it was another long day, 60 plus miles. And most of it was on our plan to be on 101. Right out of the gate, leaving Lake Quinault, ran into another bicyclist that's going down to San Diego from Vancouver, BC. We decided to go ahead and connect up on the ride. We rode together all day long, and we were doing a pretty good pace. I had it to just stay on 101 just because I was trying to make it most direct. But he had a route on his to go more up in the mountains, which I did see before. So we decided to pick that. And that ended up being fine. It added a little bit of hill climbing, but the road was definitely more, less traffic on it. So that was good. We stopped for one quick break. There wasn't a lot to take pictures of and video, so there's not too much of that. But we made it to Aberdeen. Struggled a little bit trying to figure out how to get across the river. Asked for some help from another bicyclist, and we were able to get across, so we got some pictures there on the bridge. I'm almost to the beach, it looks like. Bright sun. We hadn't really ate anywhere, so I wanted to try to find a place to eat, and there wasn't that much once we got across the bridge, but there was a cafe there. We were able to sit down there and see our bikes, so that was good. So we ordered, and everything was, the food was great, the help was really good, but we didn't time it. But after we ordered, it probably took an hour, and it was just basic, like a hamburger and an omelet for me, and it took at least an hour to get I think it was probably longer. So they definitely weren't speedy, but it was good, and it was a good stop. And we had a little extra time. We only had another 18 miles to reach here where we're at now. And they have hike bike sites here. We'll probably ride a little bit more together tomorrow, but after about 40 miles, I'm gonna head a different direction and head east, and he's gonna continue down his southerly path to Astoria. So we'll ride a little bit more tomorrow. Here's the Pacific Ocean. So we did make it out here, and it looks like to what I'm used to. I go to the beach, Long Beach, Washington, not too far from here. Parker State Park. So this area was something I wanted to explore and see. I've kind of followed this area and the erosion for the last 10 years or so, from remotely just looking at news articles, videos, and the maps. I've never been here in person, so I didn't really have anything to compare to it, but you could see the old roads and stuff where they had gone away. It's actually kind of sad. A lot of people lost their homes, but it looks like it has stabilized at this point. This part here, for example, in 1990 from the water was over a half mile. By 2009, it was still a quarter mile away, and now from 2009 to about 2016, it got really close to near where you see it now. At this point, it seems to have stabilized, I think, due to mitigation efforts and maybe just the natural erosion has slowed. Looks like they're working on some stabilization here. Looks like a tight point here for erosion. Looks like they have it under control, but winter's coming. Random mask on a rock, so I'll get a picture of it with my bike. Straight stretch going into Raymond. Light traffic today, which is nice. And more to see. Taking a little side road. Hopefully it pans out. Raymond, I was able to get my big meal of the day and get some lunch. On the road again. Now heading inland, east. The pathway has transitioned to this type of road, which is okay. We'll see how long I can get through. A couple miles in onto this trail, this is what it looks like. So far, so good. I just, a bee just flew in my mouth and stung my tongue. I spit it out as quick as I could. I was riding down the pathway here, and something flew in my mouth. I assumed it was a bee. So I spit it out as quick as I could. But it stung my tongue. It hurts a little bit. I'm not really worried about the pain. Worried about it getting swollen up. Last time I got stung, I swelled up a lot, and it was in my hand. So I'm gonna have to watch that. I just took some, I think, some Advil. That's the only thing I really have, I think. So hopefully that'll keep any swelling down. Yeah. Trail thickens here. I'm gonna stick on it. I regret it. The trail has improved slightly, but it's still rough going. You could be riding on that nice smooth road, but I'm not. The trail here at 2.5 miles in, it's too thick. So I'm going to bail out and take the road for now. After that bridge, I'm going to try going up here. Oh yeah. Looks fantastically bad. What does this look? about 6 miles in on this trail from where I started. Here's the current conditions. Still doable, but rough. Still on the trail. The further I go, the further I'm not sure it makes sense. Getting beat to death. It's really rough and slow. And the roadway's right there. There's hardly any traffic on it too. So I've been going down this trail, see if anybody else coming. Haven't seen anybody else on it since the very beginning. I'm probably 7.5 miles into it where I came on. And it's really rough and slow. It's kind of nonsensical to be on here with the road right over there. But I don't know, I'm kind of trying to make it work until I just give up. Just, I don't know, just for fun. Say I rode the trail. But hopefully my bike doesn't fall apart. That's anything I'm worried about, something breaking. My tongue still feels okay. It doesn't really feel like the swelling's increasing, so I hope it stays that way. The 10-mile about mark from Raymond looks like. Nice cow view. Hey cows. Look, you guys are waiting for food. Okay, here we are, mile about 10.5. Looks like more of the same. I think I've experienced enough of the trail beaten up. So I think I'm gonna head down right there and get on that road. At least maybe return if it improves. On the road again. I think I made a pretty good effort in trying to ride the trail. It was really too rough for all the gear I was carrying, and my bike and tires weren't really suitable for the roughness of this section. Found a fish hatchery on the way inland, so I stopped there. There were actually some fish, little fish in there. After leaving it, I'm back on the trail again. It looks a little better. We'll see if it is. Back on the road again. It was too rough. The trail was still too rough, so I headed back to the main road. There's a pretty steady uphill climb from the Raymond area up to here, but after this point it starts heading back down slightly as well. When I rode through, the highway didn't really have that much traffic, so it was also fine to ride. Once they at least compact the whole trail, even if it's not paved, it'll be a really nice trail, I think. I kept an eye on it where I could see the trail and waited for it to improve. It's still not paved, but at this point it was more compacted down, and it did smooth out pretty soon after I joined here. And so I stuck with it, and it just kept getting better and better. It's about 12 miles still, but you can see I'm now ripping on this trail. Just because it's so much smoother and downhill. There's quite a few interesting and nice bridges. Some bridges along here, I don't know if they're restored or newly added from the original rail, but some of them are definitely original trestles, you can tell. With it heading downhill and the smoothness improving, I really put my head down and really started grinding out the miles. But at this point, there was 2 horses trying to pass, so I pulled over. I had to talk to them a little bit to let them know it was okay. They couldn't really tell what I was until I started talking. There's a little side chute once you get to the state park area to head into the actual park off the main trail. Hi, I'm here at the Rainbow Falls State Park. I took my time, which is good. There was a lot more to see today than the previous days. I was able to get to North Cove, Washaway Beach. That was something that was kind of on my list to try to get to see. There was a couple of hill climbs. It was relatively level through most of the day, and more bay views, inlets and bridges and passageways. So I worked my way to Raymond. Looks like it's still a pretty active logging area, and have a lumber mill there. Found a Dairy Queen there, get a hamburger and some fries and sundae. So after that, I was going to try to do the Willapa Bay Trail, which is still under construction. I wasn't sure how complete it was, but there was a trail there and it was bikeable. However, it was very rough. I gave it a go for about 10 miles and it was really slow and very bumpy. And the road following that was just right next to it and perfectly fine. There wasn't very much traffic, so I decided after 10 miles to ride the road for a while, otherwise it was going to take me forever and beat my bike to death. I did that for maybe 10 miles or so, and then it started to look like it improved. I tried it one more time or another time, and it was too rough, so I got right off again. So I gave it a little bit more time on the road, and then it looked like it smoothed out, and it had smoothed out, and so I got on that and probably rode that for the last 12 miles or so. And that was quite a bit smoother, and I was able to ride that clear to the park here. The whole thing is not paved, although I did see some signs saying that they are going to be working on paving it between now and the end of the year. I think once they start paving these sections, it'll be a really good trail to ride. And then got here. I'm probably going to stay 2 nights because my train ticket is for the day after tomorrow, because they gave me an extra day and I arrived per the plan. So I'll probably stay here. I was going to see about rescheduling it, but I don't even get a cell phone signal here. I'm probably going to take a shower and walk around a little bit and see if that situation can improve. Otherwise, I'll just spend a day here and then ride the last 20 miles or so to the train stop, and either tomorrow or the day after. So one more thing, I'm walking to the bathrooms in the clearing out here. I did get the bee sting I mentioned earlier on my tongue. I think I got it out okay. I don't think there's any problem. It's not really hurting that much anymore, and it's not swelling up too bad. So I think I got it out quick enough before it could do much venom or whatever poison. Hi, this is my off day. I'm not planning to do any riding. I'm hanging out here for the day. It rained a little bit last night and this morning. Right now it's not raining, but it could at any point. I went down and visited the waterfalls, Rainbow Falls. It's not too hard to get to. It's not a big falls, but it's kind of nice and interesting. I wanted to do the Old Growth Forest Trail, but apparently there used to be a bridge quite a few years ago, like 18 years ago, that got washed out in a flood. And so you can't really walk to it because there's no bridge across the river. I suppose you could swim, but I'm not doing that. And I just looked at the road. To do the road, it's probably 2 miles each way. I mean, doing the loop around and then loop back, so it's additional 4 miles. So I don't really want to walk that far, plus the trail. I could ride my bike over there, but for some reason I'm not that motivated to do that either, although I would like to walk through the trail. the bee sting I had on my tongue, it definitely has swollen up more, and it's actually kind of hard to talk, and hopefully it's as bad as it can get, but I woke up and it wasn't feeling that great. So that's kind of the status of that. So I planned right now just to hang out here, reading all the signs and stuff, and then decide if I'm going to ride my bike over there or not. So I did opt to ride my bike around, which was a good choice. And then once I got over there wasn't anybody in the parking lot. I didn't know if the trails were bikeable. They didn't have any signs that said no bikes were allowed. So I went ahead and just rode my bike through it instead of hiking it. Although it was still steep in spots, it was fine to ride through. It's my final day heading into Centralia. It's a short ride, a little over 20 miles. Most of it is on this Willapa Hills Trail. So there's a story about that goat. They brought him into the campground, trying to find who it owns. Apparently it's still out. There's a story about these cows too. At least one cow in this herd is loud and likes to moo all night long. Don't know which one it is. Alright, back on the Willapa Hills Trail. A lot of additional trestles and other old bridges and river crossings. The condition of the trail just kept improving. It's warming up right now, but it's still 49 degrees. It got down really cold last night. So judging on it's 49 now, I think it was definitely low 40s. For the most part, this compacted gravel is nice enough. It doesn't necessarily need to be paved. The other uncompressed is horrible. Still a peaceful trail, not to the paved section yet. Bald eagle disc when I rode up came from somewhere over there and flew right through here and over the bridge right over me. But I didn't record it because I was riding, no camera. This particular trestle was really long, just covering, I guess, the wetland areas. Transitions to pavement right after this bridge. Gravel to pavement. Morning. after this latest improvements to the trail that they make, I'm going to head back up and try to incorporate this trail into one of my rides so I can check it out. Once you get to Chehalis, which is right next to Centralia, then the trail ends, and then there's mostly side roads and low traffic roads to get to the train station. Little tight areas when big trucks come through though. I don't know if I've ever eaten at a Sonic, but it's kind of nice if you have a bicycle. You can even order right there and sit outside if it's nice, though it's covered. I guess I'll try them out. I'm here at Chehalis, Centralia, a little early, about a little over 2 hours before the train. I'm going to check that out and see if it's on time or what's going on. Well, I finished my tour here, and Centralia is where I ended up finishing up. A little bit early, a little bit more than an hour for the train to come. So I thought I'd give a recap of the overall tour. It was pretty much, I think, as what I was expecting, and it was fun overall. The ferries up in the San Juans was kind of its own type of touring, and then the Olympic Peninsula was a different type of touring, which is what I had expected. The ferries certainly aren't very difficult to navigate. Other than the scheduling of the time, they're a little bit, they don't run quite as often as you would think between, if you want to go to specific islands. Yeah, you definitely have to time that out. So some planning is good, because then you still have to ride to the campgrounds. And that was expected, and my plan worked out fine, and no issues up there. The parks and the islands are fantastic. I wish there was a little bit more viewpoints. There's a lot of private area and things that seems like you would get a water view, but you don't. But overall, it was very good. Probably my favorite was Morin State Park and Mount Constitution. Other than the view was very hazy, but it was very fun. The ride was harder than I thought, and I did it without all my gear. So plan on that being difficult to get up there. The second part of the tour in the Olympic Peninsula down through Whidbey Island. I went through Whidbey Island, both going northbound and returning southbound. So I got to see a lot of the Whidbey Island. That's good. Deception Pass. That's kind of neat. The park is nice there. Lots of pathways and stuff. I didn't get to check out the whole thing though, but it looked like a nice area and a fun park. After crossing over on the last ferry, they call it the Coopville ferry to Port Townsend, I visited the park that's right near the ferry dock, which is full of batteries. Well, I hadn't seen, there's lots of batteries, old military batteries around here in the Northwest, but this was the most I've seen in one area. So that was fun, but hilly, so I put that in, and then I decided to extend to a different stop. So I kind of shortened that section, but I think it was a good choice to push on. That kind of put me ahead of schedule and allowed me to break up some of the long rides in the last week. The Olympic Trail is a mix. It's good and worthwhile to travel. A lot of it doesn't really exist, so you still have to ride on the highway, but parts of it were really good. My favorite part was riding along the Crescent Lake, and that was really beautiful through that area. I was able to stay at different campgrounds, and that I had pre-planned different options. I did mix it up a little bit. The views were mixed. There was a off-road gravel, which was fine. Then I transitioned more to the coast, although again, you're far enough away that from the Pacific coast that you really can't see much until a little bit later in the ride. This whole last week I had a string of 50 plus and I think 3 in a row of 60 plus miles. So there were some big runs that stayed at Lake Quinault. That's beautiful and a nice area. Had to pay for regular camps, but those are fine too. If you're looking for an option, that's a good place to stay, especially if you have 2 or more people. I think it's economical. And then I ran into another tour going south, actually down to San Diego. So we rode for the whole next day together, and that was good and fun to ride with somebody. So that just happened. We left the Lake Quinault at the same time. That was kind of the first day we really had rain, or I had rain, and it was okay because it was only at night and no real rain while I was riding. And then finally the last big trail was the Willapa Hills Trail. Now I'm just gonna hopefully connect up with the train here in a little bit, and that'll wrap up my tour. I made it safely back on the train and headed home without any issue.